It's Monday night, and you know what that means. The Jersey First Television Network probably brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am the generational talent in Garden State media because now more than ever, ladies and gentlemen, as the establishment media here in New Jersey continues to lie to you every single day, guess who won't? That's right. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Happy Monday. I want to thank you for tuning in here on the 23rd of June here in 2025 as we continue on, folks. And I appreciate you tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so right now on Facebook Live via StreamYard, also on the Jersey First YouTube page, as well as all of our other social media platforms, along with, of course, whether you get your podcasts on Spotify or SoundCloud. Hey, download Jersey First and make it a part of your weekly listening and viewing here on our programs. And folks, again, I can't say it enough. If you haven't done so already, make sure you like us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and X. Click the subscribe button again. And you click that little bell on YouTube, and you'll be automatically notified of all the great content that we bring you here every single week on Real Talk, folks, because it's always strong, fearless, independent journalism here on this program. Can't say the same for all these other Mickey Mouse journalists and the Mickey Mouse media here in New Jersey, but you never get that here on Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. Of course, folks, when you get your podcast on Spotify or SoundCloud, download it, take it with you anywhere at any time, whether you're driving down on Mondays for Tiki Mondays. You know, we all know how great that is on a day like this, folks. Trust me, I think it's nice to be by the beach. And of course, hey, we appreciate you tuning in here, and hopefully you're all staying hydrated. And thank you, hopefully you're staying indoors and watching Real Talk here live on the Jersey First Television Network. Folks, I can't say enough what a privilege it is to be on the dream team of Garden State Media. That's right, folks. It's always Jersey First TV. Of course, educating and empowering all of our great viewers here in the state of New Jersey. Folks, we're being advocates for what really matters, kitchen table issues. Not all the woke bullshit that the establishment media loves in New Jersey. Now, folks, it's not about pronouns. It's about real issues, public safety, property taxes, and of course, that and much more. That's what we value here on the Jersey First Television Network. Of course, brand new episodes of The Nader Narrative premiere every Thursday, hosted by the great Elizabeth Nader. And of course, brand new episodes of Real Talk premiere every Monday night. Of course, check your local listings on social media for start times here for Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. Folks, you want to stick around for final thoughts? I'm going to have a lot to say about some of the clowns in establishment media. And of course, as we all know, take your pick, folks. You got a lot of wannabe constitutional scholars and foreign policy experts over the weekend. And of course, you have your usual children in New Jersey with their, traditional Trump derangement syndrome. But when it comes to just being deranged and just producing garbage journalism, folks, guess who comes to mind? That's right. Insider NJ, and of course, led by its editor-in-chief, Max Pizarro. And we're going to talk about the latest insanity by Max Pizarro. And of course, who's to say that, of course, he doesn't get direction from, his useless boss, the general manager at Insider NJ, Pete Onelia. And of course, folks, you'll have to definitely tune in because I'm going to cook this latest power list by these two idiots when it comes to policymakers. And folks, I think you're going to be absolutely outraged about who their top policymaker is in 2025. And for someone like myself that believes in parental rights and not corrupting our kids with all this alphabet army nonsense that we see every single day, especially in our curriculum in our public schools in New Jersey, well, folks, I'm going to stand up for parents because that's what these two clowns, they definitely will not. So you definitely want to tune in for that. And folks, also, as a reminder, I also want you to make sure you stay tuned in. I'll have a special comment about all the constitutional scholars over the weekend, sort of having ejaculating all over themselves about, oh my God, what President Donald Trump and what he's doing is unconstitutional. No, I'm going to give you a little bit of a reminder because I have the receipts about where was your outrage from 2009 to 2016. So you want to stick around for final thoughts and tonight's special comment for sure. Folks, it is an election season here in New Jersey. Obviously, I've been talking to gubernatorial candidates, assembly candidates, but it's not just those statewide races that matter. It's also municipal races that are just as important because, again, all politics is local. So, of course, here in Hudson County, we have a lot of very interesting municipal races. We have, obviously, council races in both Hoboken and Jersey City, as well as in the towns of Guttenberg and Kearney. But, of course, in all 21 counties, municipal races matter incredibly. So why not talk about nearby Bergen County, and a municipality that I love to visit quite often, whether it's going to the American Dream Mall, whether it's going to MetLife Stadium to see my Dallas Cowboys smoke the New York Giants every year, or just to go enjoy fine dining in the great municipality of East Rutherford, New Jersey. Well, guess what? those municipal elections matter as well. And let's talk to one of the council candidates running this year in the great municipality of East Rutherford, folks. He's a big fan of the show, fellow educator. That's right. We're talking to Irene Mena tonight live on Real Talk. Irene, how are you?
Good. Thank you for having me on, Fernando. What a pleasure.
Appreciate it. Pleasure's all mine. And folks, again, it's important to get involved in local races. Certainly, if you're not familiar with East Rutherford, and you should be, it's a great municipality to live in, to shop, to dine in. And certainly, municipal elections matter, certainly this year in 2025. Irene, good to see you on here. And again, on this hot summer day, I'm sure I'm saving you a little bit of time of knocking on doors tonight and hopefully not suffering from heat stroke. But listen, as someone who ran for office once many years ago, I always commend people that want to do it. And certainly your race in East Rutherford came on my radar. And, unlike the other journalists in New Jersey that, I don't know, get very fickle about who to cover and who to interview, I talk to everybody. And so I want to talk to you and really talk about the issues that are plaguing East Rutherford. So before we get to that, what was your epiphany to run for council?
So I want to premise this that I love my community. I actually already am on the Board of Education. So I ran 2 years ago, and that led me to where I am today and running more. There is a lot that is transpiring in this town that I want to see change, and I want it to be better. I have young kids. My husband and I have rooted ourselves in this community. So as we see the changes that are taking place, we see things that we want to make better. We see a future for our children where they're proud of the community they live in. And the first place to start is with ourselves. I'm a big believer that if you want to make a change and you want to make where you live better, then you need to fight for it. So that is why I did this. I'm ready to fight for our community in this town.
Well said there. Now, let's get into what needs to improve in the township of East Rutherford, because I'm sure that you're not just running because you're bored. Obviously, you're already on the school board, and that in itself, I'm sure, is a challenge. As you heard during my opening monologue, I'm the only journalist in New Jersey that cares about parental rights and what's going on in our boards of education. And certainly we know that throughout the state, the attorney general and the governor seem to acquiesce to a certain curriculum that, quite frankly, I'm not a fan of. And I know you're a parent as well, and we'll get to that in a minute. But right now, what would you say are the most pressing issues in East Rutherford that need improvement?
Sure. I think certainly, like many places in New Jersey right now, overdevelopment is definitely what is plaguing us most. We are a very, very small community. And by small, I mean our town is 4 square miles, but the actual livable area is roughly about a mile large. So all of our residential area is very compacted in. And due to the affordable housing, the Mount Laurel Acts, we have a plethora of new apartments that are popping up. So I think with the proper foresight and planning, many of these places can be, like surrounding towns have done, they skirt around the law by purchasing the land as a town. So I think with the proper foresight, we can look and see the areas that we can use as green spaces that we will need for schools, and even for senior or community centers that would benefit our community instead of inundating our sewage systems, increasing congestion within our schools. So there are a massive amount of areas within our community that are impacted by overdevelopment. So that would be the first thing that I would want to help prevent or slow down. And again, it takes the proper foresight and planning in order to make those adjustments.
Folks, if you're just joining us live right now, it is 6:10 exactly on the East Coast. It takes 5 seconds. Trust me, I've counted. Like, comment, share, and subscribe tonight's episode of Real Talk here on the Jersey First Television Network as East Rutherford Council candidate Irene Mena joins me live right now. Drop a question or comment in the comment section, folks. We appreciate your feedback here on Jersey First TV. Irene, every town has its issues. Obviously, here in Hudson County, a lot of interesting municipal races talk about whether it's property taxes, public safety, parking, infrastructure, development. Obviously, as you're knocking on doors, talking to people in East Rutherford, but even, certainly for our viewers that maybe aren't familiar with East Rutherford, what's the makeup right now of the mayor and the town council in terms of party? And does one party seem to monopolize the entire politics in East Rutherford?
That is a great question. So our entire mayor and council right now is full Democratic. We do not have one Republican on there that represents our community. So I'm hopefully come November that will change. My running mate Jeff and I are hopeful. that we will be able to, take a position on the council and have some Republican voices on there.
When we look at, and again, I talk to candidates all the time, other journalists and activists, even elected officials as well. It's easy to get sort of wrapped up in the national political dialogue or even the statewide one. Obviously, there's a gubernatorial race, which is going to be hotly contested coming up on November the 4th. All 80 state assembly seats are up for grabs. But, as I say all the time, I've said to my students over the years, all politics is local. And when we look at races like yours and others, it's a reminder about how important it is to be engaged in what's going on in your community. Sure, we all have an opinion about what's going on nationally, even internationally today. But really, it's about issues that matter locally. And I say this all the time to people. I get it. There might be a segment of the town and certain, communities that are more engaged about, the woke bullshit that I am always denouncing. But, in a local race, it's not about pronouns and all that other nonsense. It's about, hey, is your garbage getting picked up? Are there enough services for seniors? Is the summer rec program helping our kids in the township? What's the council doing to reduce property taxes and waste? I would argue these are the talking points I think that are resonating with residents right now in East Rutherford. Is that fair to say?
Oh, absolutely. So taxes are a huge issue. We actually have what's called a rolling tax assessment here in East Rutherford. So your taxes are increasing without you even realizing, because while your tax percentage is staying the same, we have our homes that are being reassessed every year, which, as we know, the state of New Jersey go up drastically. So you're seeing jumps of $60,000, $80,000 on your home. And therefore, even though your tax percentage isn't changing, the amount that you're paying is changing. So we are slowly, we're pricing out a lot of people, especially seniors, that just can't afford to live in our community anymore. So it definitely comes down to taxes, even things with the schools. You have referendums that are needing passed. Again, with the overdevelopment, we're eventually going to need more schools in town, which again, therefore, you need a tax increase. So the pricing out, I think, is a problem throughout all of New Jersey, but specifically in East Rutherford, with the rolling tax assessment is a massive issue, and that's something else that I am passionate about seeing an end to.
Are we seeing developers maybe getting their way too much in a town like East Rutherford? I know it's a problem throughout New Jersey. Here in Hudson County, where I live, again, I can walk 2 blocks. I look at Manhattan. I live near light rail. So, I know where I'm living at. It's densely populated, and developers are looking at Hudson County as a ripe piece of real estate. I think it's fair to say that Bergen County is also encountering the same problems.
Oh, absolutely. So with the developers, East Rutherford had lost its zoning rights previously, so we're just getting them back. And in order to maintain them, they are, I feel, appeasing developers. So they are essentially getting everything that they want in terms of the number of houses. And we use the Affordable Housing Act as a scapegoat for the builds. But again, the impacts of this are detrimental to our community, to our sewage, to our drainage, and most importantly, to our schools. I don't think we emphasize enough what development does to our schools, not just in terms of obviously the number of students per classroom, but overall just our schooling grades that we get. So when you're buying a house anywhere, you're looking at Zillow and there's a rating on there. And if you're a young family, if you're spending $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 on a home, you want to ensure that you are in a tremendous school district. Well, what happens when we have transients? So these apartments that they are affordable housing is what they call them, but it's not true to what they are. You have 20% of these apartments that are affordable housing. The remaining 80% of them are luxury apartments. Luxury apartments statistically have roughly 2 to 3 year longevity as to when the tenants are staying. So you see these families coming in and out of town. So they're not staying there. They're not planting their roots. They're not the ones that are volunteering. And so what happens is, as their kids come into school, if they're moving within 2 years, when they come in, we see roughly, according to data, about a half a year to a year school year loss in education. So when we do our state testing, these students are scoring lower statistically. So it impacts our grades. So when people do come and they want to buy here, they're seeing lower ratings than they should because the numbers end up being skewed. So if you look at any high transient areas, of course, East Rutherford is one of them. We are being impacted not only in terms of congestion and overdevelopment, our schools are also being impacted, which has a long-term impact in terms of not only the actual education our kids are getting, but as well as on taxes, right? So overdevelopment impacts everything from seniors being priced out to the education that our kids are getting and who's moving into the community, because you're not going to get families that want to stay and live here at the price point that the homes are selling for when the schools aren't being rated as well as they used to.
When we think about the educational quality in East Rutherford, I mean, again, you mentioned it right now. It's a big component for families that are moving in. Like, they move in anywhere. They want to see that the school district is being well funded. That we're seeing that obviously the right amount of resources are being made available to students. Now, in your experience on the school board, obviously, I think that's made you very battle tested, as they say, during this council race. What's been the feedback from residents in town that obviously already know you? You're on the school board. I can tell you're fiery. You're vocal. You have a lot to say. What are you hearing from residents? Obviously, as you know, as the summer months continue, you're going to festivals, you're knocking on doors, you're doing meet and greets. What are you hearing about how your presence on the school board translates into what you hopefully want to do as a member of the town council?
Sure, that's a great question. So, I mean, truthfully, right now, I have to say, I think our school district is tremendous. We have a wonderful school community. Our ratings are really good. My kids go to our school, so I am confident in them. But again, it comes back to the foresight. I don't think the concern is right now, but what's going to happen in the future when all these developments that are being built open up and then we see the plethora. And that's the concern with a lot of parents in town. East Rutherford is very generational. You have people that have been born and raised here. Their parents are still living here. Their kids are being raised here. And so there is a deep sense of pride and connection to our community. And so people are looking forward. And I think that is what gives me a bit of a benefit, is because people do know that I am very mindful of the schooling because our roots are planted here. And so having somebody that has the next 15 to 20 years in this community guaranteed because of their children is beneficial to all, right? I do want the best for what is transpiring in East Rutherford. I want the best for my kids, and I want to be somewhere that my kids and everyone else's are proud to be raised in. You know, when they're going to college and they say, I'm from East Rutherford, I want that sense of pride within them.
Fair enough. I don't want to sort of bait you with this question, but I think it's one that obviously, when it comes to running for local office, is it fair to say that maybe you're not pleased with what the mayor and the current council members are doing in the town? And if so, what specifically do you want to sort of pinpoint and sort of analyze here on the show?
So a little bit of baiting there, a little bit of baiting.
Well, I mean, I mean, I'm not trying to bait you. I mean, again, my apologies, but I think at the end of the day, you know, as I ask every candidate, it's like there has to be something that the current administration isn't doing well. And I would argue that, and listen, I don't want to paint everybody with a broad brush, but I think in Bergen County, a lot of Democrats that run towns in Bergen County, I'm sorry to say that they're not run very well. But that's just my opinion.
So, I mean, personally, what I would like to see, I would like to see our community become stronger like it once was. The more that you have people come in, you tend to lose that bond that's happening. I run a program initiative, we'll call it, two different ones called Mission Magical Christmas as well as Snow Angels. Mission Magical Christmas was geared towards families that were unable to gift their children with gifts, and it was specific only to East Rutherford. So we were able to donate to, I think, over 40 families to ensure that every child got their Christmas gift. And then same thing for the winter with Snow Angels. I ran a program where high schoolers, families with young kids would go out and shovel for our seniors. So what I would like to see, what I think that we can all generally do better, is create a community bond more. We need to focus on areas like green spaces so families can come and hang out and truly be, and again, more when we get into these urban areas, we're beginning to lose that feel as it becomes more city-like. So I would like to see our communities become more family oriented. I would like to see a area or a community where our seniors are being cared for, that are living on their own. So I think overall what we can do is just become a better community, and there are a plethora of different programs and resources that we should be doing that I don't feel we are doing as a community right now to ensure that we stay strong.
Some municipalities sort of develop this reputation. I'm not sure if East Rutherford fits into it, but you're a good person to ask about it. Are there two East Rutherfords? Because sometimes it depends on what municipality we're talking about here. Are there two versions of the town?
So there is Rutherford and there's East Rutherford. I would like to say that East Rutherford is the better half. No, they are two separate towns, though. They're right next to each other. If you cross over the train tracks, Rutherford is over there, and then we are on our end here. But Rutherford is a dry town, and we are not. So I'd like to say we're the funner side.
Okay, I was about to say, all right. I mean, that in itself, I think, already would disqualify Rutherford. I would argue. I mean, at least for me. But when we talk about the town itself, and certainly, again, at the statewide level, Irina, certainly, affordable housing is this word that's been really triggering a lot of conversations. Obviously, it's a topic that the gubernatorial candidates have expanded on. Obviously, a lot of municipalities in the state are just seem to be opposed, not because they don't like poor people or working class people. It's just that I think when we're looking at where affordable housing can work and where it doesn't work, the idea of just shoving it down people's throats and municipalities' throats, it just seems like that's what the attorney general in Trenton wants to do when it comes to affordable housing. And again, I think everyone should have a chance to live in New Jersey. It's a great state. I'm born and raised here. I want to retire here, hopefully, if I'm not getting priced out. But the reality is that I think a lot of residents in every municipality throughout the state is showing some opposition to what affordable housing looks like. And, again, not necessarily against developers, but more so of like, well, maybe we don't need that in this town. This town's small enough as it is. It's already densely populated. We do this. It's going to, again, we're going to increase classroom sizes. We're going to use up more resources in the town. It might be something that in the long run, listen, in the short run, it looks sexy and it's great because it's empowering and inclusive, yada, yada, yada. In the long term, it might be exhausting. It might consume a lot more than we think. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I could not have worded that better. I actually despise the phrase that they utilize for affordable housing because it implies that you are doing this great justice by putting up all of these apartments, and it actually truly is not. And the reason I say that is the entire unit is not affordable housing. I had mentioned this earlier. It's 20% of apartments within a unit that's being built are affordable housing. 80% of them are actually luxury apartments that the majority of Americans can't even afford, even in areas like this. So in East Rutherford specifically, we get a lot of city commuters that are coming in and they are transient. So you have 20% affordable, and then the remainder 80 is luxury apartments. What ends up happening with those luxury apartments is that we see overall the cost of the burden comes on the homeowners that have already lived here. And this is for a number of reasons. A is when you put up 100 units, 20 are affordable housing, the other 80 are luxury apartments. You need more DPW, more police, and that burden is going to the homeowners who's going to see the increase in their taxes. Furthermore, it does strain our infrastructure. When you talk East Rutherford, we have a lot of old infrastructure, and these new units are being built right into them. So storm drains, sewage, and so on. We're right on the Passaic River, so we do have issues with flooding in town as well. And then as I went back to the schooling, we're just going to see the number of students rise. So eventually classroom sizes will rise as these become populated. And then who pays the burden of that? It's the homeowner. Most Americans are barely scraping by as it is. So expecting a $1,000, $2,000 tax increase because of these units is unfair. So the issue, and I will always say this and emphasize this, it is not, when people say affordable housing and people tend to say that if you are against it, you are against having an affordable living situation. That is not the case at all. Everybody wants people to be able to afford to live. The problem is that the remainder of the community are the ones that are feeling the true burden, and they're already struggling, right? So people are feeling the economy right now. So expecting a $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 increase in taxes is a tremendous burden to many of us, as well as to our seniors specifically who are getting priced out, unfortunately.
Let me ask you this, because I'm a big numbers guy, so I just want to give a perspective to our audience here. What is the average property tax bill in East Rutherford presently?
So East Rutherford, I can't tell you the average. We do have very cheap property taxes due to the MetLife Stadium and as well as American Dream Mall, which helps us tremendously. We have all of Route 17, a lot of commercial lots. But we have, since I've moved here, I've seen a $3,000 increase from 2018 to now, a little over $3,000 in our taxes in that short period of time. So if I encourage anyone, if you're from East Rutherford, take a look back to 2018, see what your taxes are and see how much they have increased over the last 5 years, and just think to yourselves, have you seen, or what have you seen in this community that you were happy with that has accounted for that big of an increase?
Actually, I was just about to ask you that. It's like, do residents tell you at least like, hey, what's the mayor and town council spending money on? I mean, what justifies, again, working in education, as I know you do as well, we know that our local school districts are funded mostly through our property taxes. Certainly some funding from Trenton. That's getting under, that's under some scrutiny as well now with the school funding formula. Obviously, we know what's been going on with school districts having to reorganize their budgets for the next school year coming up in September. But when you're talking to residents, though, I mean, what's sort of been the biggest pet peeve from them? Like, okay, listen, our taxes going up, but what are we getting in return for them?
Well, exactly that, Fernando. That is the biggest question: is what are our property taxes being utilized for? We haven't seen anything to showcase for it truly in town. We did have a referendum that had passed for a school, but other than that, we are seeing very little improvements within the community, even within our infrastructure. So that is something that is a major concern for a lot of people. But again, that just goes back to transparency and accountability. Where are our tax dollars being used? How can I have access to see that easily and readily without having to go to a mayor and council meeting and ask these questions? So again, when you go back to small town races like this one, there are concerns. We want accountability. We want transparency. We want to see where our tax dollars are being utilized. What is being improved? If it's just sidewalks and they cost $2 million, well, tell us that so we can realize what our tax dollars are being spent towards and whether or not they are being spent properly.
Well, my producer, again, I have the best staff in the world here, but just giving me some numbers here on East Rutherford for our audience, just to bear with us here. Just looking at what I'm seeing here, the median annual property tax bill in East Rutherford right now is $7,415. Going back to 2023, the average residential property tax based on data was $7,509. My God, I'm paying over $10,000 here in Union City. But in fairness, our mayor is also our state senator, does a really good job of keeping taxes down, especially when it's in county. Again, I walk 2 blocks, I look at Manhattan. I have a light rail stop a block from my house. So, you're paying for where you live. But I got to see, I'm looking at these numbers here. Obviously and also too, just from recent data, 2023, the average residential property value in East Rutherford right now is $462,717. In comparison with neighboring towns, it actually, to your point, has one of the lowest average property tax bills in Bergen County, with Teterboro and Carlstadt also having low average bills. So again, good numbers to brag about, but I think at the end of the day, that number could always be lower.
So I think if you look at our numbers that we get in overall, residential is lower because of how much industry that we have. So we are taking in a lot of money from industry. Remember, all of MetLife Stadium, all of the Meadowlands area, all of that is East Rutherford. So I think much of our community wants to see how is that money being spent, right? So what our overall tax amount is that we collect and where is it being spent within our community? So little of our community is actually residential. Like I mentioned earlier, it's about a mile in comparison to the 4 miles that our town is actually the size of it. So that money should be being spent, the majority of it, on the residential areas and making sure that our community is having a better quality of life each year, better than it was the previous year. And I think that is a big concern for many of us because we're not seeing where that money is being spent.
Again, good numbers though. And to your point about the amount of commerce that really helps offset that expense for residents, I think obviously it's certainly a blessing for sure. Folks, it's 6:30 exactly here on the East Coast. If you just joined us live, takes 2 seconds, 5 seconds actually. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to tonight's episode of Real Talk with East Rutherford Council candidate Irene Mena. Join us live right here on the program. Again, drop something in the comment section, question or comment you have about Irene Mena, our guest tonight. Irene, you're a mom, you're a member of the school board, you're an educator, you're a council candidate. My God, what's going on? Should we just call you Wonder Woman? What's up?
I love to stay busy.
No, certainly, without a doubt. Now, how has your experience been on the school board? Obviously, you had to run for that. And again, maybe it just gets you battle tested, as they say, for another race. But take us back to that specific election and when you were knocking on doors, talking to parents in East Rutherford. How much of an education was that to run for school board?
Running for school board was a wild experience for me. I think that it was a lot more challenging than I thought it was going to be, primarily because I ran during a very tumultuous season. I ran on a parental rights platform, which by some was very well received, and as you know, by the other half was very poorly received. And it was just concerns that I had within the school and what they were teaching my young elementary age children and what was being promoted in the school. And so I ran off of that, right? There's nothing worse than a woman scorned, especially when it's a mother. So it was my calling to defend what I believe was right for the children in our community. And thank goodness it was well received and it worked out, but it came with a lot of kickback from many that opposed my viewpoints. So it did work out. Obviously, I really do believe in a silent majority, because when it comes to social media and running campaigns, oftentimes the negatives are a lot more vocal than the positives. But it worked out. I won. I had the highest amount of votes. So thank you all and everyone that voted for me. And now I'm on this new journey to run for council and fight for what I believe is best for the community again.
And I got to tell you, if you haven't watched the program before, I'm really the only journalist, Irene, that has been staunchly for parental rights. I hosted a parental rights candidate forum during the spring with candidates, and I continue to be the only guy talking about this. And more on that later tonight, folks, because, obviously when we have establishment media, hyping up certain librarians when it comes to books that just are not appropriate for our kids in the state of New Jersey, I'm the only one talking about this. And by the way, for everybody at home, it doesn't make me a transphobe, doesn't make me a homophobe, it doesn't make me a bigot. What it makes me is someone that is concerned for parental rights and for our kids. Now, Irene, listen, I don't have any kids that I know of, but I can tell you that when it comes to staying up for parents, I take this crusade very seriously, because at the local level, again, listen, it's thankfully we're not living in towns like Montclair and, those type of towns, for God's sakes. But we know what a detrimental effect, and this isn't slander, this isn't defamation, so this is fact. I can back it, I have the receipts. We all know the detrimental effect the NJEA and the AFT has had on our kids. 5 years later, we still really don't understand the learning loss that our kids suffered during COVID, when the state was shut down longer than it should have been, when obviously legislators in Trenton caved to the teachers unions and kept our kids again at home longer. You're having kids as young as 5 years old having to learn on a MacBook or a Chromebook. That's ridiculous. You obviously also see curriculum being taught to our kids as young as 5 years old. And I'm with you. I'm someone that, quite frankly, is mortified that this is even a debate. The fact that, again, I took high school biology a long time ago. I remember passing it. And I understand that, and I'm also an academic. So all this social construct bullshit about gender and sexual, no, like, we know what genders are. Okay. You're a mom. Okay. You have a couple kids, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I have two kids. I have a boy and a girl.
Okay, great. So if you had a gender reveal party, hopefully it wasn't one of those obnoxious gender reveals, right? But when you had a gender reveal, it's either two colors. It's either blue or pink, right? This idea that there's multiple genders and all this social construct nonsense, it drives me crazy. So when I see parental rights activists running for school board, and by the way, folks, those elections are just as important as these municipal races as well, because they're having an impact on what your kids are learning. So in town for you, when you ran for school board, can you just give us an example about what some of the nonsense was that was maybe opposing you in the platform you were running on?
Sure. So originally this had all started because one of the schools had put up a Happy Pride Month banner that was roughly 6 feet tall, and it sparked a Facebook debate. Ironically, I didn't have Facebook at the time, so a lot of the moms in the mom group were showcasing to me what was transpiring, and it was in the kindergarten hallway, but it specifically had the acronym LGBTQ plus in it. So one of the kids had gone home and asked Siri, what is LGBTQ plus? So the mom then hears Siri telling her kid what lesbian, bisexual, gay, transgender is. And that is how all of this began. So again, to your point, it's not about everyone. Let me back up so I don't word this poorly and people come for me. We in our family, we support everybody, right? We don't point out differences to our children. I think that today, inclusion has become differentiation. We think that you have to point out every difference in every person, and that is how we accept them. For me, kids are kids, right? You like soccer, I like soccer. Let's go play soccer. It doesn't matter if you're Black, white, Asian, if you have two moms, if you have two dads. All you have to do is be a good person. And that was the argument that I was trying to make. And somehow the opposing side turned me into this awful human being that was a danger to children, that was a bigot, that was homophobic, and that was racist. And I would try to argue, like, hey, my children are mixed. We come from two different religions. My husband and I were two different races. We support everything. I just don't want my children learning about things that I don't think are age appropriate in kindergarten. I don't know why this would even be a debate, but my kids don't need to know the terminology lesbian, gay, transgender. They don't even need to know the term straight. All they need to know is that your child is a good person. You're a good person. They're going to be friends and play. And I even have difficulty looking back now, trying to understand how that was perceived so poorly. Fast forward to today, I think that I have got to speak to a lot of these people, and they've got to at least hear my viewpoint out, and we're on better terms. But during this campaign, you just hear people say the most vicious and awful things about you that couldn't be more far from the truth. And it's based off presumptions, right? It's based off things that they hear on social media of how people are, without ever actually getting to hear you out or know you. So to anyone that is, fighting this battle, I would say stay true to your beliefs and just be mindful. I think the biggest thing is the way that you word what you are saying, because people are so easy to jump on the smallest incorrect verbiage and tear you apart for it.
Fair enough. Well said there by our guest tonight, folks. East Rutherford Council candidate Irene Mena here joins us live on Real Talk. Irene, should you be successful coming up in November and you take office in January, what would you really want to sink your teeth into in terms of the town of East Rutherford, and what do you want to tackle first?
I think for me, the biggest thing that I would tackle immediately, and again, my running mate, Jeff Sanders, and we are on the same page in ensuring that we are properly planning out these development zones and ensuring that areas that are being sold by developers, if the town has the ability to purchase it and turn it into a green space or a park, or purchase it for a future school building that will be needed, that we are making mindful decisions. It takes foresight to see what pieces of land are going to be used, and not just accommodating the state required development for the affordable housing and allowing them to purchase everything. We need smart development. We do not need overdevelopment. With the proper critical thinking skills, you can make decisions that will set your town up for the future and the future success of your children in this community, without just accommodating the state and appeasing the state. I don't want this to be a town where the state says jump and we say how high, without challenging to the best of our ability what these quotas are for the housing.
Well said there. Irene, before I let you go, you've been a great guest. I know you obviously you have a busy night ahead of you, even though it's hot and warm. You maybe still some phone banking, reaching out to potential constituents, obviously voters coming up to November the 4th. Tell us a little bit more about your running mate in this race.
So my running mate, Jeff Sanders, he is also very involved in the community. He's currently on the school board with me as well. He is on the planning board. He has 4 children that are in his community, from 2nd grade to a high schooler as well. So very rooted in this community. His wife was born and raised in town. So just like myself, they care about the future of this town. They want to see it succeed for their future generations as well. We're all planted here, Fernando. We're not going anywhere. So we are going to do our best to fight to make this community the best possible place it can be.
All right. Well, listen, I definitely want to get him on at some point during this summer, early fall, leading up to Election Day. And certainly if I can be of any benefit to your campaign and obviously give you a voice when, let's be honest, we all know that, the regular establishment media, whether it's NJ.com or NorthJersey.com or the other garbage news sites, won't talk to local candidates, and that matters. Again, all politics is local at the end of the day. So I'm happy to talk to your running mate at some point. We'll obviously we'll talk off the air later tonight, and we can communicate about getting him on in the program later on this fall, leading up to Election Day. Again, before I let you go, we'll do a quick lightning round here, because we've gotten to know Irene the candidate, Irene the school board member, Irene the mom, but let's just get to know Irene the regular gal here. So quick lightning round on some topics, and you just tell me what comes to mind, okay? So I'm a big sports fan. I'm not sure if you are, but let's start off. Favorite NFL team?
Giants.
Okay. Favorite Giant of all time?
I don't know. We have lots that live in East Rutherford. I don't want to make anybody angry. I have all of the above, all of them.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. And it's interesting because I go, big Cowboy fan here. I go every year to the Cowboy Giant game. And let's be honest, it's always a home game for us. there's a lot of Cowboy fans. A lot of Cowboy Nation goes to East Rutherford every year. And I'm actually lucky because my dad's a Jet fan. The Cowboys visit the Jets and the Giants this year, so I get to go to MetLife twice this year. So I'm kind of excited about that.
You have to visit me in East Rutherford.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of great places to eat before the game in East Rutherford. Not so much American Dream Mall, but in town where there's a lot of good spas, a lot of great dining. I've been there. It's a great, great spot for sure. Favorite baseball team?
Yankees.
Big Yankee fan as well. Favorite Yankee?
This is tough. I don't know. I can't say this either. We have had tremendous players. We going like current, all time.
Sure. Yeah. Whatever comes to mind.
Okay. We're going to come back to this one. I'm going to come up with a good one first. Go to the next question.
NBA or NHL teams you like?
A lot of basketball. I would say, I mean, if we're going old school, maybe the Bulls, Michael Jordan.
Okay. Fair enough. Not to put you on the spot with this one, but this will be kind of funny. Favorite cuisine and dining in East Rutherford for you?
Okay. You're really just hitting them with the good questions here.
Hey, that's my job.
It is a little pub called Blarney's right on the train tracks, and they have the most amazing French dip sandwich. Normally, I would say it's a pasta dish, but it is comparable to Houston's, and it is absolutely heaven in your mouth.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. Last but not least, favorite American president and why?
Can I say Donald Trump? No. I would probably do Ronald Reagan.
Same here.
He is a tremendous president, and from his policies, I think that were tough but fair for the country. Sure. I would say. And I mean, if you ask, I wish my son was here right now. He's out with his dad, but if he was here, he would give you all of the reasons that Donald Trump would be his favorite president. And thing to listen to.
Well, listen, he's being raised right. That's for sure. Actually, this one, since you're a parent, obviously, and you have kids, Marvel or DC fans in the house?
So we actually don't watch a lot of movies in our house.
Okay.
I'm going to say neither. The one thing that my daughter does, I don't know how because it's not me, Star Wars.
Same. Big fan here. So.
A whole 7-year-old Star Wars birthday party with blow-up stormtroopers and actors that came. I've actually never watched the Star Wars series.
Okay.
But she's very into it, so her and her dad watch it frequently.
Okay. You know what? It just came to mind right now because I see you're very stylish. And I mean, I'm an old man compared to you, but maybe this pop culture question, maybe it'll get you a little inquisitive here. But favorite Sex and the City character?
I didn't watch Sex and I'm just like really losing on all of these shots here.
Okay, interesting. Okay. I'm curious. I mean, you're very stylish. I figure like, oh, she's probably a Carrie Bradshaw fan, sort of the style on you. I see that.
Yeah, I'm actually a big like book reader, so I geek out a lot. I know a lot of people just at nighttime turn on the TV. My husband listens to podcasts and I read books. So we have a lot of the pop culture stuff.
Excellent. What's your husband's background ethnically and
my husband's father is Salvadorian and his mother is Puerto Rican and Dominican.
Wow, that's a really interesting mix. Okay, Cuban, Colombian, and Spaniard here. So I understand all that mixed life. I get it. But Irene, again, you've been a great guest tonight. Any social media handles and websites for your campaign?
Yes, thank you, Fernando. This was an amazing experience. You were obviously tremendous. Thank you for having me on. Sure. The social media that you can follow for Jeff and I's campaign is East Rutherford Republicans. We post all of our campaign stuff right on there. We also have a website that's tinyurl.com, Mena and Sanders for council. And all of if anyone has questions or you want to hear more about our viewpoints, please feel free to email us. You can message us directly on Facebook, but we'll be here. We'd love to chat with you.
Well, I got to tell you, listen, I'm certainly rooting for you and your running mate. Really, really like what your campaign consists of. And when I hear about someone that's engaged in the community, that's entrenched, that's dug her heels in, as they say, into not the culture war, but I think really about the issues that matter at a local level, you're a great candidate to talk to. So Again, I appreciate your time. I know you're very, very busy running. I know, obviously, in a town like East Rutherford, every vote counts. Folks, coming up on November the 4th, you have choices in the township of East Rutherford on the town council. Guess what? One of them, it's my guest tonight, Irene Mena, here on Real Talk. Irene, I want to thank you so much for being with me tonight. Obviously, again, we'll be in touch. I certainly want to get your running mate on the program at some point during this summer and early fall, leading up to Election Day. But keep knocking on doors, keep raising awareness. And again, I'm pulling for you. Come up in November. Again, during this election cycle. I'll give you the last word here tonight.
Thank you, Fernando, for having me on. It was a pleasure. You asked the most intuitive questions. And obviously you have your feet planted in the ground with what matters for not only East Rutherford, but the entire state as a whole. So thank you so much for doing what you do. For those of you that are part of our East Rutherford community, I hope that you learned a lot about what we are passionate about, Jeff and I. And we truly care about this community, and we hope that you will vote for us. If there is anything that you would like to discuss or give us information on, or what you would like to see improve in this community, we are all ears. Again, you can just come knock on my door. You can send me an email, give me a phone call, and I hope to chat with you all soon.
Irene, you've been a great guest. Again, I just have to say that when you're as busy as you are and you're taking the time to be involved in local government, it says a lot about your character and your drive. And I couldn't be happier to talk to candidates like yourself during this election season. So I want to wish you the best of luck. And I'll talk to you again here on Jersey First TV. Folks, again, she's Irene Mena, running for council in the township of East Rutherford, New Jersey. You have options. She's one of them this November the 4th. Irene, God bless you. And we'll talk to you again soon here on Jersey First TV.
Soon. Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Folks, good stuff there with Irene Mena again. Town council candidate in the township of East Rutherford. And folks, listen, local politics matters. And it certainly makes a difference in what we're talking about during this election season. And when it comes to a working mom, an educator, someone who's already on the local school board, I mean, what more do you ask for? I mean, how many more boxes do you have to check off in the township of East Rutherford? And really, when he talks about council candidates, Irene Mena and her running mate certainly are two candidates you should definitely be rooting for this November. So again, I want to thank her for her time on this hot and humid and sweaty day here in New Jersey. And folks, I got to tell you, I mean, listen, June is my least favorite month of the year. It's just, it's so aggravating and annoying with everything we have to deal with during the month of June. You know what I'm talking about, right? You know the stuff that really bothers me during June, right? You know, the humidity, the heat index, you know, just making sure we're staying hydrated. What do you think I was going to say? But again, folks, we appreciate you tuning in here on the program. Obviously, staying indoors and watching us from wherever and however you're doing so. Again, on your PC, Mac, smartphone, or tablet, we appreciate you making this a part of your Monday night viewing. But don't go anywhere, because you know what time it is. It's time for Final Thoughts. Yes, folks, you know, it is the election season, and let's be honest. I mean, take your pick. There's no shortage of clowns in New Jersey media, academia, activism, and advocacy. And of course, you can tell behind me who I'm talking about, right? I mean, take your pick, right? We have Antoinette Miles with the New Jersey Working Families Party. We have soy boys and beta males like Joe Amaditis at the School of Communications at Woke State University, you know, over there in Montclair. Or useless clowns in media, you know, like Alan Steinberg, the host of Dynamic Political Centrism with 10 viewers, including my girlfriend, who's just as old as I am, if not more, right? Like these losers in New Jersey media and academia and activism, folks, really do us a disservice on a regular basis. And take your pick. Of course, you have Tom Moran, you have John Van Vliet, and you always know when John Van Vliet arrives because his nose gets there before he does, right? Or other useless activists like, Bob Medina. I mean, folks, is there a more useless human being than Roberto Medina, right? I have yet to find one, and it's hard because it's a pretty crowded field. But we all know, folks, when it comes to useless journalists, take your pick, folks. Charles Stile, who barely works, or Matt Friedman, who, I mean, if he works 20 hours in a month, that's a lot for this pothead. But again, or useless activists like Amy Torres, the resident cat lady, an enabler of illegals in New Jersey. right? Or other journalists, well, propagandists, let's be honest, like David Cruz, who, sure enough, folks, as you all know, obviously coming up this week is his last episode for the season. And what a surprise, David Cruz not working the whole year. I mean, nothing should surprise you with this lazy bastard. But, I mean, ¿qué te espera de este huevón, que no trabaja? But anyway, but obviously, folks, when we talk about huevones and people that are useless in New Jersey media, and people, let's be honest, who are now going from being propagandists to dangerous, well, let's be very fair, folks. Let's start with Max Pizarro from Insider NJ. Now, for those of you that, again, know about Insider NJ and their garbage powerless, it was brought to my attention by one of the more esteemed assemblywomen in New Jersey, Dawn Fantasia. Shout out to Dawn for sharing this over the weekend. And it caught my radar, and I said, wait a minute. If there's ever a moment to go cook Insider NJ, I'm never going to squander the opportunity because of what a garbage news site they continue to be. Never mind the fact that we all know the virtue signaling that Max Pizarro does, right? I mean, when he leaves his house, which, let's be honest, when does he ever leave his house? Right? When he's not like making Fred Snowflake drive up and down New Jersey to cover events. Because, for someone that earns over $100,000 a year and sits on his ass and plays with his dick all day, Max Pizarro excels at this. But what Insider NJ really excels at is publishing garbage powerless and who they're prioritizing. So when we talk about powerless, I mean, again, folks, and let's be very, very clear about something. Is there a family more generous in New Jersey than the Graham family? In the way that they give away money. Because they employ two useless human beings, Max Pizarro and, of course, the general manager of Insider NJ, Pete O'Nelia, who, let's be honest, the most difficult part of his day is, well, I don't know, should I scratch my balls or my dog's balls? I'm not sure in what order. But, folks, this is the level of complacency in journalism that we're seeing with Insider NJ, which is why really nobody reads it. Because let's be fair, when we talk about real journalism and not just, copying and pasting press releases or publishing garbage columns, we all know, folks, that when it comes to exceptional journalism, it's the New Jersey Globe. And my good friend David Wallstein and all the great staff over there at the New Jersey Globe. But one of the things you could always rely on when it comes to Insider NJ is how much, especially Pete O'Nelia, wants to prostitute himself for advertising dollars. And what better way than to get everyone's dick hard in New Jersey than to reach out to lobbying firms and candidates and activists and organizations and say, hey, it's time for our latest power list. Do you want to get your name and picture up there? So, of course, everybody, in New Jersey activism and advocacy and in politics, of course, everyone, blows a load in their pants. I'm like, oh my God, I get to be on a power list. I get to have my picture and my logo on a power list. And in some cases, what we see is people giving money to Insider NJ and in return, having their content featured more prominently. And by the way, that's not slander or defamation. I have the screenshot. So, Pete, in case you want to get cute with me, I'm the wrong mother effer to mess with because I got screenshots. So if you ever want to act holier than thou about the quality of journalism and Insider NJ, we all know it's bullshit. Right? But when it comes to powerless, you would think that as Max Pizarro, who's home playing with his dick, and Pete O'Nelia is at home playing with his dick, and they're on a Zoom call, talk about like, well, who should we rank on a power list coming up? And we all know some of the garbage power lists that we see there, right? During the year. Like one of the few times, during the political season that Jay Lasser does any work, let's be honest about this lazy bastard. I mean, come on. If it's not his sob story live or crying about some anniversary about this or that, which nobody cares about. Least of all me, I could care less. But the power list that Insider NJ, folks, continues to publish are pretty conspicuous and downright questionable. But the latest one is their policymaker power list. Let me give you a perspective here. I want to make sure I quote her directly because I want to thank Assemblywoman Dawn Fantasia for nailing it on this latest power list. Now, again, when you look at the policymakers of 2025, listen, folks, there's some good candidates there. I'm not going to lie. But again, a broken clock is right twice a day, too. But when you're elevating garbage humans like Amy Torres, who does nothing but coddle illegals, and by the way, when was the last time Amy Torres left her house in downtown Jersey City to go to Delaney Hall? See, Amy's really good at bullshitting everybody from her phone, right? She's good at being on her phone like this, bitching and moaning about authoritarianism and fascism and oh my God, right? As she's sucking down her third cappuccino from Starbucks. I don't take people like Amy Torres seriously, and neither should you. But the person you should take the least seriously is who Insider NJ ranked as the top policymaker. As you can see there, Martha Hickson. And you're probably asking, Fernando, why is that person important to know? I'm going to tell you why. Because she's dangerous. I'll give you a perspective on it. I'm going to read you. Obviously, you can see there. You can screenshot it, or you can go on their power list, right? I'm going to read you what is here from my notes about this power list. Okay. Now, Insider NJ decided to promote Martha Hickson in their latest power list. Now, I'm going to read you what it says here, and just bear with me. And then I'm going to read you the best analysis of why this is dangerous from Assemblywoman Dawn Fantasia. So as you can see there, according to Max Pizarro, again, someone like Max Pizarro, who in a state that has the highest property taxes in the country, where spending's out of control, where the gas tax just went up again this year, and the tolls went up on the Parkway and Turnpike this year, Max Pizarro would rather focus on woke bullshit, like pronouns and identity and all that other nonsense that, apparently gets Max Pizarro's dick hard, Not sure what else does, but that's a visual I don't think we need to sort of focus on, right? But here's interesting. The recipient of the 2022 Lemony Snicket Prize for Nobel Librarians faced with adversity, right? Hickson withstood ignorant and hateful attempts by community members to ban books in the school library. Max, what's ignorant and hateful? That there's content in books for kids as young as 5 that are available in public libraries because of librarians like this that we should expose our kids to? I get it. You have a kid who's almost grown up now. So would you have been okay with your daughter at the age of 5 being exposed to some of the content we're seeing in our public libraries? See, again, that's the level of disconnect that Max Pizarro has, right? When you're so consumed with identity and you live in this sort of woke bullshit bubble, you forget about things that matter to everyday people. Let me continue. Okay. Her efforts to protect intellectual freedom, as if Max knows about anything about being intellectual, let's be honest, in part sparked Governor Phil Murphy to sign the State's Freedom to Read Act into law on December 9, 2024. The law, quote, prevents arbitrary book banning and protects the rights of students, parents, and communities to have free access to age-appropriate books and learning materials at schools and public libraries, according to the governor's office. The, quote, Freedom to Read Act cements New Jersey's role on the forefront of preventing book bans and protecting the freedom of the intellectual freedom of our educators and students. Across the nation, we have seen attempts, here we go, here's the virtue signaling. We have seen the attempts of to suppress and censor the stories and experiences, here we go, of others. I'm proud to amplify the voices of our past and present. In theme is no better for our children to prepare for the future than to read freely, says Governor Murphy. Okay. So this is who Max Pizarro decided to elevate as the number one policymaker. I'm going to read you what Dawn Fantasia put on her Twitter. And I couldn't have said it any better than Dawn Fantasia. This is who Insider NJ crowned the number one policymaker of 2025. The infamous librarian who claims there's no such thing as obscene, sexually explicit material in schools. And if you don't agree, you're hateful and ignorant. Again, like Max Pizarro, who lives in this echo bubble, echo chamber of like woke bullshit. Max, in an election cycle when real issues matter, like property taxes, and public safety. You care about pronouns. We're not the same. And as much as you like to play dress up, as we know, right? Folks, has there ever been a least masculine looking cowboy in New Jersey than Max Pizarro? Because when I think of masculinity, folks, I don't think of Pete O'Neill and Max Pizarro. Okay? Like Jay Lassiter, they're great because they employ women. These are women at Insider NJ. I don't have a problem saying that. I say it all the time. Let me continue. The blatantly obvious. Some of these books violate New Jersey's own obscenity for minors statutes. They include so-called guides for minors on how to, quote, and mind you, these are the books that Max Pizarro thinks are okay to be made available in our school libraries, in our public libraries, in our municipalities. Number 1, perform sex acts. Use sex toys and lubricants. Judging by this picture, I don't know about Max Pizarro, Hey, there's different strokes for different folks, but never mind. Let me continue. Take and share topless selfies. I think I've seen that, right? Like, imagine when you see Max Pizarro on a horse, like bare-chested. Like, folks, imagine having to see that on social media. Like, how are we not traumatized by that? Right? But let me continue. Access adult sex hookup apps, and even how to pay for pornography, complete with a disclaimer that, quote, this may be illegal if you're under 18. Yes, these materials are sitting in your high school libraries, fully accessible for kids 14 to 17 years old. Insider NJ calls her a policy leader. Parents and the rest of the sane world call this bizarre and indefensible. I couldn't have said it any better than Dawn Fantasia. In a time when, thank the Lord, we are getting away from dudes in dresses, woke bullshit, coddling mentally ill people, because that's what they are, trans people, they're mentally ill. Because you can't tell me, okay, and there's a lot of people want to cancel me, good luck with that, okay? For a community that continues to still strive and struggle for acceptance, because here's a newsflash, folks. I have plenty of gay friends, plenty of friends who are lesbians, and that's cool. And plenty of friends of mine who are bisexual. That's fine. You're born that way. I'm not questioning that. You're born that way. It's fine to accept you that way. But the idea that young children and their parents who are enabling this mental illness, or grown men who want to play make-believe and dress up, want to pretend that they're women when they're not, or grown women or young girls who, as much as they want to butcher their hair or butcher their bodies, they're never going to be boys or men. Okay? You would think in a community that's still striving for acceptance, why would we ever include the T in the LGB? These aren't people that, again, aren't accepting how they're born, because that's how you're born. You're born a man with XY chromosomes, or you're born a woman with XX chromosomes. No amount of butchering your body, no amount of playing dress up and make-believe is going to change that. Okay? Somehow Max Pizarro forgot that. Max Pizarro, who's in his late 60s, must have forgot when he took high school biology, there's only 2 genders. Not this social construct bullshit, Max and Pete. As much as you want to believe in that, that's cool. You know what? Max might want to believe the Jets will win a Super Bowl too. That's delusional as well, but Max is entitled to believe that. What Max is not entitled to do is try to stuff that belief system down your throat and make it seem like it's believable. It's not. But kudos to Dawn Fantasia for highlighting this. Because as kids in New Jersey, again, not every school district are they reading at optimum level or performing math at optimum level or writing at optimum levels. People like Max Pizarro would rather you worry about pronouns and identitarian politics and all the other bullshit that Max Pizarro believes in. Max, it's easy for you to sit at home and scratch your ass when everyday New Jerseyans like myself that have real jobs, that work, actually work, engage in labor. I know you don't know about that. But they care about everyday issues in New Jersey. In a time when, again, we have the highest property taxes in the country and spending's out of control, and New Jersey Transit still isn't working correctly, and especially during these hot days where commuters are suffering or people are trying to get to and from work and tolls went up on the Parkway and Turnpike again this year, you would think these are issues that matter in the real world, but not to Max Pizarro. Max Pizarro would rather virtue signal and elevate the most despicable people. But again, as I've said before on social media, I'll say it again here. For someone like Max Pizarro and Peter Nelly, you should be ashamed of yourselves. But then again, when did these two lazy bastards ever have any shame to begin with? Spoiler alert, they never did. And we should have learned that by now. So shame on Max Pizarro, shame on Peter Nelly. And folks, again, if you want to voice your concerns, do that. Write to Pete and Max at their emails, max@insidernj.com and pete@insidernj.com. Or comment on their pages and email them and contact them and tell them you're wrong for elevating the worst kind of people. For elevating some of the garbage humans that you do on some of your power lists. For employing some of the garbage humans that you do with garbage takes and garbage columns like Alan Steinberg, John Van Vliet, Bob Hennelly, and Jay Lassiter. Well, are you really surprised? Garbage knows garbage. And when we think about establishment media in New Jersey that continues to do you a disservice, folks, it starts with Insider NJ. And like I said, they should be ashamed of themselves. But then again, when did these people ever have any shame to begin with? Think about that for a moment. And those are my final thoughts. Folks, a special comment here tonight. And again, I know there's a lot of constitutional scholars and foreign policy experts on our social media feeds over the weekend, certainly opining after President Trump decided to obliterate the country of Iran's nuclear facilities to make sure that a regime that coddles terrorism like Iran and organizations like Hezbollah and Hamas and others don't get their hands on a nuclear weapon. But somehow, progressives, the establishment, left-wing media, activists, you name it, folks, all these little wannabe constitutional scholars and foreign policy experts are all up in arms and all like ejaculating all over themselves. Oh my God, how dare President Donald Trump carefully and strategically coordinate attacks, not on Iranian people, but on Iranian nuclear facilities to make sure that they're obliterated. Yet this weekend had nothing to do with airstriking Iranian people. Oh, but you know who did that? That's right, the 44th president, Barack Hussein Obama. Just as a reminder there that just as many of you on the left are all up in arms about, oh my God, President Trump didn't declare war. That's Congress's job. Did Congress declare war, or did Barack Obama seek Congress's approval when he dropped bombs in Libya in 2011? Or in Pakistan from 2009 to 2016? Or in Yemen from 2009 to 2016? Or in Somalia from 2009 to 2016? Or Iraq and Syria from 2014 to 2016? Did any on the left in New Jersey or in establishment media or in activism have a hissy fit and meltdown on social media and say, oh my God, we need to impeach the president. This is a constitutional crisis? No, it isn't. Stop your bullshit. Because if you didn't have that same energy during the years I just mentioned, no one takes you seriously now. So kudos to the 45th and 47th president, our Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, our Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, and our Vice President, J.D. Vance, who stood there in the West Wing of the White House on Saturday night and told you that a nuclear Iran is unacceptable. You want to use a nuclear power plant for nuclear energy to power your cities like other countries do? Cool. That's not an issue. And that was never an issue of this administration. But we all know what these nuclear facilities were for. To allow Iran to have a nuclear bomb. Folks, a nuclear Iran is unacceptable. And we make sure to take care of that. But for a lot of you, you're all concerned about, oh my God, how this is a constitutional crisis. Did you have that same energy during the years I just mentioned with Barack Obama? Of course not. Because again, it reminds us that many on the left and progressives, as always, are talking out of both sides of your mouth. Yeah, your heart's in the right place, but your heads are up your asses. But what else is new with the American left? And all the woke crowd, and all the social justice clowns, and progressives? Because suddenly now you have standards. You never had standards to begin with. And we learned that over the weekend. So congratulations to our armed forces, to our brave men and women that successfully completed this mission with pinpoint precision and made sure that a nuclear Iran is impossible. You know what? Very simply, Donald Trump told Iran he's not Barack Obama, and he never will be. Thankfully for all of us. And that's my special comment. Folks, that's our show for this week. Once again, I want to thank Irene and Mena, East Rutherford Council candidate, for her appearance tonight. Again, folks, I can't say enough about your support here every single week on Jersey First TV. Traffic continues because, again, folks, it's real conversations because it's real traffic because it's real talk. Okay? And when we talk about strong, fearless, independent journalism, it's not Mickey Mouse news sites with Mickey Mouse journalists like NJ Spotlight News, Insider NJ, Political New Jersey, NorthJersey.com. No, folks, it's not these little Mickey Mouse media sites. No, folks. You can always rely on strong, independent, fearless journalism right here with Jersey First TV, and it starts with Real Talk. Folks, again, if you haven't done so already, make sure you like us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube. And, of course, make sure that you subscribe to us on Spotify or SoundCloud. So whether you're driving down the shore to go to Tiki Mondays at Tiki Bar, visiting your in-laws, hopefully maybe you're staying hydrated, maybe on your front porch or in your backyard under an umbrella, having a nice margarita, guess what? You probably have your smartphone, your PC, your Mac, or tablet with you. Check out Jersey First TV and, of course, brand new episodes of Real Talk every week here on the Jersey First Television Network. Folks, again, I can't say enough what a privilege it is to be on the dream team of Garden State Media. That's right, it is Jersey First TV. Folks, brand new episodes of the Nader Narrative premiere every Thursday, live with my amazing tag team partner, the great Elizabeth Nader, and brand new episodes of Real Talk with Fernando Uribe premiere every Monday night. Of course, check your local listings for start times every single week here. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid. It is always Real Talk right here on the Jersey First Television Network. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am the generational talent in Garden State Media, and I'll continue to be the hero you need right now, folks, because as the establishment media continues to lie to you every single day, guess who won't? Fernando Uribe. That's right, folks. Please party responsibly. Please stay hydrated, folks, during these very hot summer days. Look after your elderly neighbors. Look after your kids during these hot summer days. And, of course, folks, we appreciate your support here every single week on the Jersey First Television Network. Folks, again, enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks for stopping by. And always remember, stay classy, everyone.